tonight for another 5 at 5. We're going to continue in the book of Jonah, and we're going to read verses 7 through 10 of chapter 1. It says, "And they said to one another, 'Come, let us cast lots that we may know on whose account this evil has come upon us.' So they cast lots, and the lot fell on Jonah. Then they said to him, 'Tell us on whose account this evil has come upon us. What is your occupation, and where do you come from? What is your country, and of what people are you?' And he said to them, 'I am a Hebrew, and I fear the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land.' Then the men were exceedingly afraid and said to him, 'What is this that you have done?' For the men knew that he was fleeing from the presence of the Lord because he had told them." The sailors decide they're going to cast lots to see whose fault this storm is. Remember, they're freaking out. They just woke up Jonah, and they're throwing cargo overboard, and they're saying, "Hey, you just need to start praying." Well, then they say, "We've got to cast lots. We have to figure out whose fault this is." So they cast lots, and they fall to Jonah. And then they start questioning Jonah. "Who are you? Why is this happening? What did you do? Where are you from? What's going on?" And look at Jonah's answer. He says, "I am a Hebrew. I fear the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land." Jonah, he started to show off all of that head knowledge he had again. I mean, look at that answer. It's pretty much what you would call a perfect Sunday school answer. It was great. He says everything right. But remember, knowledge does not equal holiness. Jonah says that he fears the Lord, but does he really? I don't think so. If he feared God, then he would have obeyed to begin with. I mean, he just knows that that's the right answer for the situation that he's in. He says, "I know that God created the sea and the dry land." And that's really funny to me. I wonder if Jonah realized how ridiculous that sounded whenever he said it. Now he says, "I know that God created the sea and the dry land," but he's trying to use the sea that God created to run away from God, the one who created the sea. He's trying to run from his presence. I wonder if he recognized how hypocritical and ridiculous that sounded. Again, he knows all the right answers. He knows what to say. He's been educated. He has these things. He grew up in the church, I guess you could say. He knew the right thing to do. He knew the right answers, but that wasn't being reflected in his life. He wasn't living out his faith. He wasn't doing the right thing. Again, he knows the right answers, but that doesn't mean that he was living out his faith. You may know the answers. You may know the Bible. You may have Scripture memorized. But if you're not living out that faith every day in your daily life, then you've missed it. We've got to make that connection. We need to make sure that our lives are truly matching the words that we speak, because if we're not careful, we can speak all these words, we can say all these great things, you memorize Scripture, repeat Scripture, we can have these things down in our heads, but our life may look completely the opposite of how we speak, of how we talk. And that's a dangerous place to be, and that's where Jonah found himself to be. Now Jonah, his first step towards living out his faith was to admit that he did wrong. He says, "It's my fault." And he tells the sailors, "Hey, you've got to throw me overboard because I know this is my fault. I'm living in sin. I'm doing the wrong thing. And you've got to throw me overboard because that's the only way this is going to stop." And the sailors, they don't want to do that. They're like, "What? You're crazy. We're not going to do that because if we do that, you'll die." And he says, "You have to." And they say no. So they start to try and paddle. They do whatever they can to get Jonah and themselves to safety, but they can't do anything. So they say, "Okay, Jonah, we're going to throw you over." And they throw him over. And that was Jonah's first step to actually living out his faith. And then we have in verse 17, God appointed a great fish to swallow up Jonah. See, my prayer is that all of us will really and truly start to live out our faith. And we'll pick